There's a quiet feeling that follows a lot of people around. The sense that everyone else is somehow further along than you are. You're doing fine on paper, a job, a routine, people who care about you, and still something whispers that you're behind. Behind on your career, behind on money, behind on the life you were supposed to have built by now. Here's the strange part. That exact feeling haunts people who are objectively winning too. So if successful people feel it and struggling people feel it, the problem was never really your progress. The problem is the broken instrument you're using to measure it. Let's take it apart, piece by piece. Reason one, for the first time in history, you're comparing yourself to everyone, everywhere, all at once. Your grandparents measured their life against maybe 100 neighbors. You measure yours against millions of strangers. And not their real lives, their edited ones. The promotions, the trips, the wins, posted on purpose. You're matching your raw, unfiltered behind the scenes against the world's carefully chosen highlight reel. No human being could ever match the combined victories of thousands of strangers, yet you quietly expect yourself to. Reason two, you're running on a timeline you never actually chose. Married by this age, settled by that one, a house, a title, a milestone stamped onto every birthday. But those deadlines came from other generations, other economies, other people's lives entirely. You inherited a schedule built for a world that no longer exists, then blamed yourself for falling off it. Reason three, progress is almost invisible to the person making it. You don't notice yourself growing. You only notice the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So every step forward quietly moves the finish line, and the gap somehow always looks the same size. Reason four, the moment you reach a goal, your mind erases it as an achievement. The thing you once prayed for becomes the boring baseline you barely think about. Yesterday's dream is today's, obviously. Psychologists call it the arrival fallacy, and it never stops. You'll chase the next thing believing it will finally feel like enough. It won't, unless you change how you count. Reason five, you compare your beginning to someone else's middle. You watch a person at chapter 20 and feel like a failure for being at chapter 3, but you never see their early chapters. The rejections, the dead ends, the years that looked exactly like yours. You only meet the survivors. The thousands who walk the same path and quit are invisible to you. Reason six, you measure yourself against your potential instead of your past. You hold today's reality up against the perfect version of who you imagine you could be, against an idea that has no flaws, no bad days, and no limits. Anyone alive would feel like they're losing. Reason seven, the feeling of being behind is fueled by a clock that doesn't really tick the way you think. We treat life as a race with fixed start and finish lines, where being slow means being lost. But real growth isn't a straight line. It compounds quietly, invisibly, then seems to arrive all at once. So let's flip the whole thing around because the truth underneath is lighter than it feels. Behind. Compared to whom exactly, on whose schedule, written by which stranger, for which life? You cannot be behind on a path that only you are walking. There is no one ahead of you on it. The race you keep losing was never real. You were handed a starting line and told it was a finish. So stop measuring against feeds full of strangers and start measuring against the person you were last year. Are you a little wiser, a little steadier, a little closer to who you actually want to become? The people who seem ahead aren't ahead. They simply stop running someone else's race sooner than you did. Define what enough looks like for your one life before the internet defines it for you. Pick the handful of things that genuinely matter to you and let the rest of the noise fall away. Because the feeling of being behind isn't proof that you're failing. Often it's proof that you still care. You were never behind. You were just looking sideways instead of forward. So turn your eyes back to your own road, take the next real step, and let the timeline be yours.